Okay, members, we'll open the meeting this evening. A good evening to everyone. To the Environmental Services Committee for Manama District Council on the 3rd of November 2021. We're in the Grange, Oma, joined by some members in the Chamber and also via WebEx. So we'll start with item number 1 on the agenda tonight is apologies. If we have any apologies, members will go to Councillor McClaughry first there.
Thanks, Chair. Just one apology, Councillor Stephen McCann and Councillor Padraig Kelly will speak later, but will join us, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Sorry about that, Chair. You were putting it on. I was putting it on. You were putting it on. No apologies as far as I'm aware. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. And one apology this evening, Councillor Jarman Phillips. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Oh, apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other apologies, members?
Yeah, Councillor Coffey is he'll be in late. He's attending another meeting with the Monarch workers, fighting for equality of
Okay, Councillor O'Coffey, thank you. Now we'll go item number 2, members, is to sign minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 6th of October 2021, and that has been done, members. Thank you. Declarations of interests, item 3. Just to make members aware, I declared an interest myself in item 8.3, and I've made arrangements for Councillor Thompson to chair the meeting on them 2 items of correspondence. So just to make you aware, members, thank you. Is there any other declarations? Councillor Wilson. Your hand is up there, Councillor Wilson. Okay. We'll just move on to item number 4, members, is matters arising. So the 3 matters arising, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, Councillor Robert Irvine.
Sorry, a bit slow on the uptake. It's more on page 9, Chair, as regards the correspondence. Really well written. I know it's an issue throughout the district. Essentially, there are grit boxes placed all around the place, and they are very good, and the residents, both in urban settings and semi-rural settings, use them. But there was an issue, I know, last winter with regard to topping up the boxes. Not all of the boxes, but just in some locations, and it did cause a bit of inconvenience, particularly, I think, to the start of this year, because coming up to Christmas, the weather wasn't too bad, but it was getting into sort of nearly January, February, and into March, when you think you were out of the gritting season, but it came back in again. Maybe if we have some liaison with the department in regard to their sequence of topping them up, it would just be useful. I don't need a reply now, John, but if you got some sort of feedback. I know we're having DAA meetings, but maybe you could feed that in as a general topic. Thanks very much indeed.
Are you happy to propose to note the correspondence, Councillor? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, happy to propose. Yeah,
thank you. And a seconder for that, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the noting of the correspondence. Thank you.
Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I actually was on to the road service there yesterday about the grit piles around the rural roads, and because it was almost February last year before they were out, which was far too late. And I have been assured that they will all be, that they're soon starting them, and that they will all be done completed before Christmas, and that they're prioritizing the roads that is in the greatest need, the hilly roads and that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that part of the thing, the same problem that happened last year isn't going to happen. So just for information.
Thank you for that information, Councillor Green. Sir Wilson, just
Chair, yes, can you hear me? I wasn't being muted, but I wanted to declare an interest in page 2, 4.1, Northern Ireland Water and Sewerage. As a family member, works in that department. I would also like to support Councillor Green in what he's saying. Last year, on the rural roads, it was almost February, and in some cases it was February before the gritting piles were left out. Although I do see some of them out this year already, but that's to be welcome. But I think it needs to be overall, not just bits here and there. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that, Councillor Wilson. Okay, members, we were on page 12. It's 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. 17. Page 16. Yeah, so there's some correspondence. Yeah, on page 16. Just Councillor McClaughry.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, it's just in relation to the item just on page 13 and 14. So if you wouldn't mind just coming on before the Chief Executive there, and it's directly relating to the changing places facilities that the council is providing. Just to put on record that I got a very positive comment from a member of the public in relation to the changing places provision at the Gordon Glens Forest Park over the weekend. Stating this lady and her daughter visited the park. They're from outside the district, and they said that their visit was made possible because of the new changing places toilets. They really enjoyed the facilities, the geese and the wild animals that were out there. They did, however, put forward a couple of suggestions, so I don't know if we could propose them at this meeting, even to put them on the agenda or to possibly investigate them as part of the Gordon Glen steering group, which I'm a member of as well. One of the suggestions was that the play park lacks a wheelchair swing for equitable play. And I know there's work ongoing in the play park, so possibly if that could be something that's investigated or looked at. And the second suggestion that was made was if there would be possible to have an item or two of sensory equipment at the trim trail area, so a wheelchair user has something to do at that particular area. And the suggestion was something like a sound wheel, which would fit in with a forest setting. So if I could make a proposal, maybe that's taken back to the Gordon Glen steering group.
Well, that can be fed through. Yeah, we can feed
That's
that.
brilliant. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and a seconder for that, Councillor Thompson. Happy enough. Thank you. Sorry, members, that's okay. We did have some correspondence now on page 16. John.
Yep, Chair, you can hear me. Members, yes, with correspondence has been received this afternoon from Department for Infrastructure in respect of part-time speed limits at St Aidan's, Derry Lynn, and also providing an update on future prioritised schools within the Fermanagh District Council area. So that correspondence has just come in today.
Thank you for that. John. Councillor Marie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, John. I'm happy to propose to note that and welcome that correspondence from the Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. McClaughry.
Yes, Chair, again, happy enough to second the note. There's a couple of primary schools there in the Mid-Tyrone area, so that'll be definitely welcomed in my own DA. Thank you, Chair.
It's lovely, members. Proposed and seconded. Okay, members. Page 17. Page 18. And page 19. Okay, that's matters arising, members. Thank you. We'll move on to item 4.1. It's to consider correspondence dated the 20th of October. Or sorry, if we've dealt with them too. Sorry, members. Item 5 is reports for decision. Item 5, Environment and Place Directorate reports. And item 5.1 is to consider report on estates matters, paper A.
Thank you, Chair. The paper in front of you, 5.1, it's a routine paper in terms of updates for decision and also for information in respect of estate matters. The recommendations are set out at the section 9.1 in the paper. I'll not run through them all, there's quite a few of them there, but they're 9.1 through to number 7 are for decision, and 9.2 are to note. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that, John. Okay, Councillor Robert Irving.
Thanks very much, Chair. I've read the report. Thanks very much, John. I have no queries or questions. I'm just happy to propose adoption of the recommendations, and that's all the adoptions at 9.1 and 9.2 as well. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Robert. Councillor Barry McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item 2.1, Carton Glens, all of great interest in Carton Glens, it's a great success story, and it's attracting a lot of interest and comment in the area, and everybody notices, the wee improvements and the big improvements and the things that need to be done, obviously. So in relation to 2.1, I think the person who has taken on the cafe, has had to put up with a lot of difficulties, For example, I'm led to believe that there has been a number of recent power outages, in the cafe as well, which maybe set back the business. I know it's a contested area, but the whole idea of Wi-Fi, needing to be there for payment transactions, all these things are in the background, and it hasn't been a great trading season. So I'm wondering, is there any way we could be even more helpful in respect revising things? And that's 2.1. And then on 2.4, the Green Hill Cemetery car park issue, I would anticipate absolutely that hosts of the Winter Wonderland will be happy to undertake that type of work, to make it possible. Homeless and Enders are putting on a big show here and will want the support of the community, so they'll play their part. So those are my 2 comments, and maybe there's a question in there that John might want to interpret. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McElduff. Would you like to second the report? Thank you. Thank you. John, would you like in there?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, members, for that. And in respect of Carton Glen, we are aware of the issues, and staff actually spent time at the weekend with the leaseholder at the cafe, and we're undertaking further investigations in respect of the issues that you've identified. So we are aware of and working to do that with the leaseholder. So thank you for the comments.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's just a couple of comments or questions in relation to the report presented to us. First one is in relation to item 2.5 and the community centre at Belcoo. I'm presuming that when the underground cabling has been laid, that there'll be NIE will be returning the surface to an acceptable or an agreeable standard. And the second thing, in relation to 2.6 and the requested use of council property, there's a line in there that says the facilities are provided the organiser submits proof of liability indemnity, and then in brackets, if deemed necessary. And I'm just wondering, who deems this to be a requirement, or in what circumstances is that deemed to be a requirement? Is that part of the policy, or do we have a wee bit more detail on that? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Alison.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, just in relation to the indemnity aspects, it would typically relate to the event in question. So it would be on a risk-based approach. So, for example, some would maybe be, if we're doing mountaineering or more outdoor recreational-based activity, they may have a higher risk profile for some other events. So it's typically on a risk assessment, and our insurers would provide advice on each event.
Thank you for that. Just on 2.5, the returning of that ground to same standard, I would assume that would be the same. That would be required. Okay, thank you. Now, members, Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. 2.2 there, car park in Lisnaskey. I see it was transferred over in 2015 from the Department of Regional Development, but they didn't own it. They had it leased from the Lisnaskey Fairs and Market. What way does that sit now if we give up the lease on it at the end of December? Will they come back and make us do anything with it? Can we do that whenever they have handed it over to us?
I think John Boyle is on the meeting tonight on decision time. If John could come in. Sorry, John, but the next one, John Boyle.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Yes, we took over responsibility for the management and the maintenance of Fairgreen Car Park in 2015, as stated in the report. We took on, I suppose, 39 of those car parks at that time, and this was the only one which was actually a lease. The rest we took on in ownership, and the lease had operated with DRD at the time from 2012 and was due to finalise at that stage in 2017. Now, so in effect, we took on a liability rather than an asset when we were taking on that lease. In 2017, we renewed it for a further 5 years, and therefore it's up for renewal on the 1st of January of next year, 2022. In relation to the liability that we have thereafter, we have spoke with legal services and got advice from legal services and confirmed that there is no legal obligation on us thereafter. It is just a straight lease that we have with the landowner of the car park, and therefore there would be no future commitments if we were to give up that lease at that time.
Thank you, John. Councillor Robertson, are you okay with that?
Aye, happy enough for that at the minute, I know.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Marie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to welcome the detail that's been given about the works done by Chumley Athletic Club. And I'm delighted to see the works progressing and that the council are supporting the club. They have great ambitions for the club there, and it's a cross-community, sports club. And I think it's a great initiative that they're trying to improve facilities in Dromore. So just wanted to welcome that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Councillor Keenan is next, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just with regards to the car park in Lisnaskey, it's very close to what now is the only bar open in Lisnaskey, and I think the usage of it is probably going to go up, and I think we possibly need to keep it because of that reason, that very reason. And I propose that maybe we lease it for another couple of years just to see how things go. And the other thing I wanted to mention was Christmas lights and I did notice today that there is still a UVF flag flying on the same light post as a Christmas decoration, and I think it's the wrong signal to be setting out. Children will be getting, maybe Santa Claus coming down the chimney with a balaclava or something. Sort of mixed signals there. Maybe we could take that down.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Thank you, Councillor Keenan. Okay, Councillor Warrington is next.
Thank you, Chair. Well, again, I'm on the Fairgreen car park in Lisnaskey. As somebody who worked in Lisnaskey a lot of my working life, and as some of our previous speakers have already stated, it's probably the only parking area now within Lisnaskey. Obviously, I can't see the fairs and markets people doing anything further with that car park apart from keep it as it is. but certainly, you know, for the benefits of local businesses, and I know certainly there's another business going to open very, very shortly directly opposite that car park. So I suppose a couple of questions. One is, was there any sort of survey or anything done on the usage of it for us as a council to come to this conclusion? And secondly, the fact that the toilets are now built within that car park, what way do we stand legally there? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Reilly, are you on the same vein just before we go to John? Councillor O'Reilly.
Chair, can you hear me now?
Yes, hear you now. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, we've got to appreciate here there seems to be at least a 10-second delay between you asking to be on, a member to be unmuted and that happening. Maybe we could speed up that unmuting system to be able to make it run a little bit more seamless. Yes, I'm on the same one. Chair, I want to know where or who or how this decision was came to be made. Lisnaskea is one of the villages that can become a bottleneck from one end of it to the other with one vehicle parked outside the Galeases chipper there in the middle of the town. And certainly we need all of the car parking spaces off street that we possibly can get. And we have a number of businesses, and as Victor and others have said, there hopefully some more coming online to that end of the town that certainly needs to be serviced by off-street car parking. And I don't know if the fairs and markets people would be willing to look at handing over that or selling that to us, or what way we took over all of the other ones, as John said, and this one came to be leased to us. But certainly I would be looking for some assurances that if we pull out of this lease, that car parking is retained as car parking by the fairs and markets if they have the ability to do that. Otherwise, I would be very happy to support Eamon's proposal there that we would lease this not for a couple of years, but for as long a lease as we can get to be able to provide the much needed car parking to that end of town. Thanks, Chair.
Are you happy to second that proposal, Councillor O'Reilly, before you go just there?
I'm seconding Eamon's proposal.
Yes, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, if he's willing to take that off the 2-year and to go for as long a lease as we can, because 2 years is, I don't want this coming back in 2 years' time, you know.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, Alison.
Chair, thank you. Chair, obviously there's a number of issues that have been raised in terms of both the surveying of businesses and the queries. I would be a little uncomfortable, Chair, about specifying a lease term before bringing the implications of that through to you. So maybe if members were content, we would actually withdraw that recommendation from the report this evening. We will provide further background and together then what future lease options would be, and we could bring that to next month's meeting. It's just rather than determining a potential lease term without the consideration of other implications, we could also clarify the potential role that others may have, and indeed future development proposals in the vicinity of the site as well. So if Councillor Keenan and Councillor O'Reilly were content with that approach, we would actually provide you with further detail next month, and then should members wish to consider a new lease, you would at least have the full background information.
Thank you for that, Chief Executive. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for that. This just a different note, Chair. I have to declare an interest for Chumray Athletic, as if I needed any more grey hairs for my eldest and third boys as members. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. I think Councillor O'Reilly's happy enough, Councillor Keenan with that. Are our members content then that we go with the recommendations as listed, proposed and seconded, and that we bring that particular item back next month? All agreed?
Chair.
Councillor Green?
Just on that, I think the chief executive said about our lease options. I think somebody had also mentioned about looking at the possibility of actually taking ownership of it, if possible. So maybe if that is added into that all options are looked at, not just leasing.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Green. The chief executive has clarified that will be included as well. That'll be looked into. Councillor Keenan?
Oh yeah. Happy enough to
Councillor, very quick.
Did you hear that? Yeah.
You're happy enough for that?
Happy enough, take it back. Yeah, but be looking to lease it at least and maybe buy it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, members, we'll move on to item. Just very quickly, members, on that last report, there was an item 274 was the Fintona Community Forum Scarecrow trial, and I'd just like to give you a brief update. We attended that on Saturday and judged the competition for them. It was a very successful event, and I would like to wish them well. There was a good turnout, and it was great to see it in West Tyrone as well. So just to wish them well and well done for that event. So the next item is item 6. Community and Wellbeing Directorate Report 6.1 to note building control and licensing report for the 21st of September to 18th of October, and that's paper B. That's John Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is the standard monthly report from building control and licensing. So it's just simply that the council notes the building control and licensing actions for the period of the 21st of September to the 18th of October 21.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Robert Irvine.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to note all the reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. And Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to second the noting.
Thank you. That's proposed and seconded. Councillor Currie.
Yeah, Gurmagad Cairley. It's just a query that I have. Just noting the amount of accepted applications. It's maybe something that I'm just not understanding in the report. 231 there, 43 approvals, you've 8 granted, 6 rejected, etc. And again, it may be just the way I'm interpreting the report, but I was just concerned, does that mean we have a bit of a backlog on what we're receiving in and what decisions we're making, or am I totally off the mark there, Gurmagad?
Thanks for that. We'll get you an answer to that. Just maybe Councillor Robinson as well, if you have a query.
Thanks, Chair. No, welfare of animals there, dog breeding establishments. There was a programme on there a couple of weeks ago about Spotlight, it was, where dog breeding place was. They were coming from Calvin down through Listonskee, Newton Butler, Listonskee. They said they turned off at Dona. They left pups out there. I don't know whether that's right or not. I never knew there was a dog breeding place out there around Dona and my area. But could that be checked out if there is any such thing out there?
Okay, we'll go with John there again, please.
Yes, Chair, just in relation to Councillor Currie's query, in relation to the number of building regulations reported. I suppose it is fair to say that the number of building control applications which we have received since COVID has increased substantially. So it has, which shows an upturn in the market, I suppose, and an upturn in people who are wanting to build. With regard to approvals and those accepted, the accepted relates to those small changes, minor changes in buildings. The approvals would be for full houses. Is there a backlog? We are under regulation that we must approve within a certain period of time. And I suppose, you know, we can't get confused between building control approval and planning approval, and this is solely for building control approval. Just, Chair, in relation to the dogs issue and yes, the Spotlight programme, which Councillor Robinson refers to in Dona, we are not aware of any illegal dog breeding that isn't licensed in the Dona area. And I think what the programme showed was that a lot of the activity which took place actually took place at ad hoc locations where people agreed to meet and to transfer dogs rather than at an establishment themselves.
Okay, thank you, John, for them updates. Councillor Warrington.
Yeah, well, certainly if there is a dog breeding establishment around that area, I would be fairly sure that it's not a licensed dog breeding establishment. I am aware that there is a licensed dog breeding establishment in Rosslea, and that's the only one up around that area which I am aware of. So I would say it probably needs to be investigated further. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warrington and Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Just back to the point that Councillor Currie raised there around that approvals 43. I get what she was asking, and I'm not sure whether I'm clear on it, on the answer that was given. It's probably just I'm being slow on it, but approvals 43, accepted 231, granted 8, rejected 6, cancelled 27, exempt none. So are you seeing them 231 there that was accepted, that they are minor changes? Surely they would go under the point thing of approvals. And I don't know why there's a difference between granted, approvals, accepted and granted. That's quite confusing to me anyway. I would have looked at that and put it up the same way as Councillor Currie did, that there was 231 applications which were accepted, and then the others were approved or rejected. But just why is that phrase approved, accepted, granted? Are they not? Is that not all the one thing? And why are there three different numbers there, Joe?
Thank you, Councillor Green. Go on.
Yeah, Chair. Just in relation to that, these are terms which are used in the building control regulations and are not set by ourselves. So if there are minor changes, they are not regarded as approvals, but they are regarded as being accepted. So it isn't. The one does not equate to the other. That just because we have accepted 231 and we've only approved 43, they are not for the same thing at all. And it is solely in terms of the wording which is used in the building control regulations.
Okay, thanks for that, John. Okay, members, we've had the report proposed and seconded. All agreed. Thank you. Item number 7 is Environment and Place Directorate Report 7.1. To note the report on Miscellaneous Directors Report Paper C. And members, this report asks us, invites comments to officers by Wednesday the 1st of December on this consultation. So we don't want to open up anything tonight. If you have anything to forward, do that to the relevant officer. Could we have a Councillor Clark?
Yeah, I'll propose.
Yes. Councillor Clark and Councillor Thompson.
I'd second the noting, Chair.
Thank you very much. And all agreed, members. Thank you. Item 8 is our correspondence. 8.1 is to consider correspondence dated the 1st of October from Entrust regarding annual briefing note regarding the operation of the Landfall Communities Fund.
Correspondence really is just presented for members to note. Nothing further than that.
Okay, to have a proposer to note. Councillor Mary Garday. Seconded. Councillor Sean Clark. Thank you. 8.2. Consider correspondence dated the 14th of October from Northern Ireland Environment Agency regarding river pollution incidents, and that's 8.2. John, maybe John has a word on that, John Boyle.
Yes, Chair, this is this is a response in relation to our query from the Loss Agency in relation to the river spill at Kesh in Fermanagh, where we sought clarification as to what specific resources both agencies have put in place in respect of investigation into the incidents. And they do outline of what is happening across the water environment. And indeed the pressures which are on the environment from the agriculture and developments of various types.
Okay, thank you, John. Councillor McClaughry.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, this is for noting it. It's still worrying for the community in this area around Kesh that it's not clear what exactly happened in our river, and we're no further forward, although there's plenty of allegations and rumours. But we'll note the correspondence at this stage, and we'll quietly await to see what the outcome will be.
Thank you, Councillor McAleer.
Thanks, Chair. As Councillor McClaughry rightly says, is a deeply concerning letter. They talk about the fact that despite the efforts they've put in, a source still hasn't been discovered. They talk about promoting pollution prevention, but obviously that's not really what's happening here. And there's a number of reports or links to reports that are attached, and I think the detail provided in some of them is, well, I would be quite cynical or quite skeptical about it. I know there was, unrelated but on a similar note, there was a news story today about down south the number of or the number and quantity of raw sewage and waste effluent being dumped into rivers and waterways. We've seen previously in council the lowering and the worsening standards of our water bodies, and this is the body that's supposed to be protecting them. I think NIA, its very existence under DERA, their hands are tied really. There's an element of self-policing there which doesn't work. We heard again, a spotlight program was referenced, another spotlight program criticised quite severely. NIA has been an incompetent, not only an incompetent, the most incompetent regulatory body that a particular expert in the field has ever encountered, and that's including countries from Latin America, from Asia, and other areas that we would consider, I suppose, less well developed. I would just like to state again my complete lack of faith in NIA, and I think the minister stalling on the implementation of an independent EPA is highlighted again by the lack of results and the lack of any further movement we've had over the months since this pollution instance occurred. And it's not an instance on its own. There are a number of other rivers and a number of other water bodies that have been affected, and the aquatic beings have been destroyed, and that's something that lasts for, they're destroyed, they're not coming back. So we need to be just very critical of bodies that aren't living up to what they're supposed to be doing.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder just for the letter?
Chair.
Councillor Coyle is next there. Yep, Councillor Coyle.
Thank you. I have corresponded both with the Department Minister of Infrastructure and the DERA Minister around this. I raised concerns at the public meeting that we had in Kesh around the protocol that NIA follow. And I've got a letter assuring me that the protocol is going to be revised. This letter, NIA has 24-hour pollution response. When staff went out, we know that they did not take water samples until Thursday. This was Wednesday evening. said health and safety grounds. Yes, that's fine. I fully stand over that, where somebody shouldn't be putting themselves at risk. But it is unacceptable that samples weren't taken, and my constituents and many other constituents in different DEAs in Fermanagh and Omagh are not getting the answers that they deserve. And level being blamed at farmers and everything else. This is not the case. We have, as Councillor McClaughry has said, there is a lot of rumours and everything else going on of where it came from. But the community deserves answers, and I won't be letting letting this issue go. We need the answers so that we it never happens again. And thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Siobhán Currie.
Gormagada Caherly, yeah. Well, I'll not repeat anything. Just to say, it highlights again this need, and something that Sinn Féin has consistently been calling for is for an independent environment agency. As others have said, our waterways, our environment is being destroyed. I know I not comment too much because I've also been in correspondence, obviously, as a local councillor with the various bodies, but the investigations are ongoing. It seems strange to me that a source can't be identified, really, to be honest, but maybe matching up the source and the culprit can be two different things. I just, really question the Environment Agency's response in general, not just here on the Eden Dara or the Kesh River, their response in general and what that means. And, sometimes attending to an incident, it doesn't actually mean that you're dealing with the incident. And I think we've seen situations where that has happened plenty of times. So I suppose we're watching this. We are still engaging. I'm sure, we're all doing the same. But again, I think it strengthens the call for this independent environment agency, because this is not working. It's not working for our environment and for our community. So those are just my comments, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Currie. Councillor Diana.Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and I'd like to support the comments made by my fellow councillors in our north. But it's actually the fish who hold the solution to this. And it's my understanding that testing of the fish has to be done while the fish are still alive, albeit, unfortunately, due to poisoning, the fish are dying, but that is when they can capture the best forensic information and samples. So it is imperative that NIEA, that whoever is there, it has to be a priority with an environmental emergency, that they do need to be there, the fastest response. So I do support the calls for an independent environmental agency, but in the absence of that, I do think I propose that NIEA look at their emergency procedures, bearing in mind that the stock in the river need to be tested while they are still alive. Thank you, Chair.
And the final speaker is Councillor Eamon.
Yeah, well, I'd second Diana's proposal. I think the statement by NIEA that you say it's unfortunate that this source of pollution has not been discovered, it's sort of very offhandish. It does feed into what Emmett was saying about the Spotlight programme, describing them as incompetent. And John.Coyle said that they didn't come until a day or two after the test things. Yeah, so I'd be happy to second Diana's proposal. Yeah.
Thank you.
There doesn't seem to be, the way they're handling these pollution incidents, there doesn't seem to be any action there, for no deterrent to any future polluters. So yeah, definitely I'll second that, and an independent one is the way to go.
Thank you. Are we all agreed, members? Thank you. Okay, I'll just hand over to Councillor Thompson at this point, members, take item 8.3. Thank you.
Okay, members, we're on now to 8.3. And that's to consider the following items correspondence regarding MOT tests and theory test centre. So 8.3.1 is correspondence dated the 19th of October 2021 from the Driver and Vehicle Agency. So for discussion and bring in the Chief Executive in.
Okay, Chair, just maybe to highlight, so we have 2 items of correspondence. Your members will be aware this is something that the Council had expressed concern both in terms of the delays around MOT testing, but also the backlog, and also then the absence of a designated centre within County Fermanagh. The information, the first letter, our requests have been dealt with as an FOI. So that is the letter dated the 19th of October, Chair. And the second letter is in terms of the MOT test and theory test centre. And again, the references are made to the various arrangements that have been in place to comply with the guidance, and also the reference is made to the closure of the previous booking service to migrate across to a new system. So you may wish to consider both in conjunction, Chair, but we'll take a proposer and seconders for each item, if that's okay.
Okay, you've heard the Chief Executive, members, and first of all, I go to. Sorry, I'm at McClaughry. Still work. Councillor McClaughry.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to pass or make a couple of comments on the correspondence. First of all, first of all, it's very disappointing that again our request for a bit of parity and a bit of equality for County Fermanagh seems to have fallen on deaf ears. I think that's to the shame of the Minister, and it's just unfortunate that it seems to be completely dismissed out of hands. As someone living in Mid-Tyrone, looking at the figures they've sent through in terms of the vehicle tests conducted by Test Centre, and taking, I suppose, with my own local knowledge, taking Cookstown as a kind of a comparatively sized area to Enniskillen or Aroma, it seems it's quite disproportionate that Cookstown seems to have gone through quite a number more tests than either Enniskillen or Aroma. And I'm wondering if we could maybe get a bit more information on that. So I would like if I could propose that we contact the Minister in relation to that, just to see if there may be a fairly logical or a fairly reasonable explanation, but just to follow up on that. And the second point to note is really in relation to the second piece of correspondence from the Minister, where she references towards the end that in relation to COVID safety measures, that counter services aren't available at the DVA test centres, but that they're looking into opening face-to-face bookings at libraries. And I'm just kind of querying there, what's the difference, or why is this being shifted on to the local libraries as opposed to something that the DVA test centres themselves can't continue to deal with or can't reintroduce? So it's really just for clarification on those 2 points, and I appreciate people here mightn't have the detailed answers, so it would be to go back to the Minister in relation to those 2 things. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McClaughry. Okay, you've heard it proposed by Councillor McClaughry that we send a letter to the Minister again seeking further clarification on these issues. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Anthony Feely, assuming we're all agreed. However, I'm going to bring more speakers on here now. And first speaker is Councillor Siobhán Currie.
Yes, I wanted to speak on this. I had raised the issues around the MOT testing and the lack of counter services available at this time at the previous meeting. I would actually propose that we actually seek an urgent meeting with the Minister on this, specifically around MOTs and PSVs for taxis, and I'm sure others will want to speak on the need for the urgent meeting on theory test basis as well, Chair. Enniskillen and Oma have the lowest rates except Larne of MOT testing, according to these statistics. Now, we're covering a massive area here, a massive rural area, and if you're living in Larne, you've Mollusk, you've Belfast, you've several other MOT centres within fairly easy reach, Chair. So That is really striking. That's the first thing. We raised, it seems like our centres are working to capacity, but should we be looking at extra lanes and or extra staff? These are things that we would need to be raising with the Minister. The impact on workers, at the moment, if your MOT is out, and I've been contacted by several constituents on this, workers who are actually unable to use their vehicle either to get to work or for work, and you can imagine the impact that has on carers in the community and other workers who need their vehicle to get about to do their day's work. If your tax is out and you've an MOT, your MOT is due, you have to source your vehicle. You can't drive your vehicle on the road without road tax. So it doesn't matter if you've got extensions on insurance, you can't drive without vehicle tax on your vehicle. That's putting workers out of work at the minute, and it is impacting on our economy. The offices is a big issue, and I've spoken to people in the call centres who are talking about the difficulty that some members of the community are even having trying to do bookings over the phone and being asked for card numbers. It's very, very confusing. And it just seems that what we're seeing here is actually COVID being used as an excuse to cut services without any consultation. Without any rule proofing. There's massive issues for taxis as well. It's putting them off the road. And to get a meter test, the taxi drivers are having to travel now to Belfast or Derry. And when they get to the centres, they're actually being sent down the road somewhere else to some third party, which isn't being communicated to them. So this all needs to be raised with the Minister, and I would actually propose that we have a direct meeting on that, Chair Gormagad.
To close. Thank you, Councillor Currie. I take it you're proposing, your meeting with the Minister, I take it you're proposing that as a cross-party delegation? Councillor Currie? Lost her.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself there. Yeah, I would say whatever way we can, Chair, whether that's in an informal meeting for the Minister to meet us remotely. This is urgent. This is affecting people's lives here. So whatever way we need to meet, I would say that it should be open to all members. Gormagad.
Not a problem. Thank you. Have we got a seconder for Councillor Currie's proposal? Councillor Robert Irvine? I think we're all agreed there. So, next Councillor McGuire. Hold on, just bring you in now, Councillor McGuire.
Gormagad, Kerley, and I was indicating to second the proposal, but again, given that the time ran out on Councillor Currie to express her deep concern. I had a conversation with Councillor Currie the day, and she intimated to me the taxi drivers are being asked to go to Belfast to get their meters checked. And on one occasion, as was described to us, was that they arrived where they were sent to in Belfast, and they were further sent to a different place, 8 or 9 miles away. Now, whereas as the councillor says, if you're living in Mollusk, Larne or Belfast, it's okay to jump into your car and drive another 8 miles away. But the distance from Enniskillen to Belfast at 80 odd, nearly 90 miles, and then to turn around and be messed about, and I believe that the person nearly missed the time of the appointment by the time they were redirected. You know, I think we need to just, taking this other minute or two, just to overemphasise the importance and the significance of asking a taxi driver who gets paid for driving his vehicle to take the self-same vehicle on a wasted journey the whole way to Belfast, whereas if he was commercially running to Belfast, it would be quite a good day's pay for him. So it's of vital significance and economic discrimination really again against the rural communities that we're representing. So I think it is a very, very, very important issue and needs to be addressed directly to the Minister.
Thank you very much, Councillor McGuire. Thank you for that. There's another couple of speakers here. It's Councillor Bert Wilson. Bert? Sir Wilson? Okay, we may come back to Councillor Wilson. Councillor Diana.Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm glad to hear that the incidences that have been raised, because they are commonplace. I have a constituent who took a bus, I don't know how, to Ballymena, got there, again, couldn't find the theory test centre. I know I would be nervous going to a theory test centre. She failed it by 2 marks, and she now has to go to Cookstown to resit. I think the Minister needs to hear these real life stories from the rural West. She needs to know what our motorists are going through. I think, and I was going to really underline also the point about car tax. When your car is out of MOT, it can't be taxed. There may be implications for people paying by direct debit, whether it has to be paid in full once the car is MOT'd. I'm not so sure, but I would second the proposal, if it hasn't been seconded, to meet Minister Mallon. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. It has been seconded by your colleague, Councillor Robert Irvine. However, you'll be noted as supported.
Chair, thank you. I have been muted now, so can I speak?
You're all muted now, Councillor Wilson. Carry on.
Yes, I can't unmute myself here, so I have to wait till that's done. Just to support Councillor Armstrong, one of my constituents who actually failed the test at sometime end of September, a young lady who has a job and needs her vehicle, and she was told that she could not be given another test. There was no vacancies until February. And that's really unacceptable. And as I say, out in the rural area, and yes, I done some inquiries, and I was told I could get a vacancy in Enniskillen. But this young lady obviously has done her training in our OMA in our local area, and she would be at a severe disadvantage. So I would like something done about that, because that's really not acceptable. And I can't see why that delay was brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Well, these proposals go forward. There's a course of action here, so hopefully it'll be remedied. Next speaker is Councillor Chris McClaughry, who's Chair of the Council.
Thank you, Chair. I would be supportive of all the comments that have been made here. As the members will know, the theory test centre is something which I've been raising, and particularly on behalf of young people who, throughout summer and right up to now, have been expected to travel as far as Ballymena for a theory test, and it is stressful enough. It's a stressful enough operation without then having to add the distance. Bear in mind that these are people that maybe do not have the access to transportation as yet, as they were trying to get their licenses. It's also very difficult for those people who are trying to regain a license, perhaps after having a ban for a number of years. People are finding it very, very difficult. It's making life extremely difficult for people in our rural area, that these services are not available to County Fermanagh, but are available around the rest of the north. So I do think it is discrimination against people from Fermanagh. I am of course glad there's a service in Omagh, but the issue here is that Fermanagh is not availing of any service at present. Surely the Minister could put in place some provision in Fermanagh to provide this service, which would make people's lives a lot easier. But it isn't just about convenience, it is also the practical impossibility of having to travel around just to get these very basic services which are enjoyed by other people. So I would speak in support of the proposals that are made, but perhaps just maybe I could add as well as the Minister meeting, that it could be put on the agenda for the next NILGA partnership panel meeting, for both MOT and theory test issues to be raised there, as well as it would be an appropriate forum maybe to have that discussion. But I think people are just sick and tired of the continued degradation of our services in our rural district, particularly in Fermanagh, but right across Fermanagh and Omagh. It's disgraceful. But I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor McClaughry. Next, Councillor Sean Clark.
Thank you, Chair. I can understand why people in Fermanagh will be a bit miffed. In Ballymena, there's two theory test centres 300 metres from each other. So they're doing very well. I'm not against people in Ballymena, but the two centres, theory test centres, are 300 metres apart in Ballymena.
Yeah, points well made there, Councillor Clark. Are you prepared to second? Councillor McCaffrey made a proposal there that is on the agenda for the Local Partnership panel. Are you happy to second that? Okay, that's been proposed and seconded. Proposed by Councillor McCaffrey, seconded by Councillor Sean Clark, that it also be put onto the Local Partnership panel agenda for the next meeting. So we're all agreed to that. Chief Executive.
Just on we could certainly progress that, but chairs, members will be aware there's a template that's completed, so we can certainly put this forward as a proposal from Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, but ultimately it'll be a decision for NILGA and for the Department for Communities as to whether the item makes it to the agenda, but we can certainly include it as a submission on behalf of our council.
Chief Executive, for clarification. Okay, I think everyone's in agreement with that anyway. So, two more speakers here, and it's Councillor Adam Gannon. Adam.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of good points raised there. It's a big issue. All the issues raised, there's a lot of issues raised, are big and very important issues, in particular in a rural area where driving isn't just a luxury. It's essential part of life here. Unfortunately, we'd all love to be able to get around by public transport, but it just isn't always the case. And there is ideas on how to fix the issues. You know, there was some talk of moving MOTs to 2 years. I'm talking about MOTs in particular here as one of the issues to 2 years, but it's kind of thinking and talking about more appointments and more capacity. I know a lot of the MOT centres, from speaking to managers, are working as basically as flat out as they can, and it might be a case of building bigger facilities in future, and that's probably a bigger job than it sounds, or adding extra lanes onto existing facilities. But that's something that I think could be raised in one of these meetings or formats going ahead. But there was something in particular that Councillor Currie said that struck a chord with me. It was around the MOT and road tax issue. I know I actually had this issue myself, where an MOT expired, but because of the massive backlogs, it takes a while to get one. And everyone locally, whether that be the police, insurers, all understand and recognise that there's a problem and accept that there may be delays in getting MOTs done. But the DVLA and vehicle taxing, they don't accept it. They're very insensitive about it, and it's a very stressful situation, as was said by Councillor Currie. You've got people, and quite often these things, because reminder letters don't always show up for these things, and they sneak up on people, and it puts a great deal of stress under people. I know myself, I was frantically trying to get stuff sorted. I had to go to Craigavon on a Sunday to get an MOT to allow me to tax my vehicle, even though I had one booked in Enniskillen for a few weeks later, and to allow me to tax my car. And luckily I got all sorted within a day or two of the deadline and didn't have to store in my vehicle. But I was lucky, because I got through on the phone to get something booked and get a cancellation, and it was incredibly difficult to get through on the phone. So there's issues there as well. So I think there's an issue around here as well, that the DVLA and the vehicle taxing is actually separate to it's not a local body. It's handled over in Swansea, I believe. And as I said, they're particularly insensitive of the local issues here. And we're talking about tackling a whole range of issues here. So I think it would also be worthwhile to propose that we write to DVLA to highlight the issues around MOT and taxing, and see if any concessions can be made, or if any exemptions can be made to vehicles in Northern Ireland which are affected by the MOT backlog and the potential impact on taxing your vehicle. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gannon. So you made a proposal that a further letter be written to the DVLA seeking clarification and answers to those questions that you've just put. Have we got a second for that?
I second that. I second that, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Keelan, I'm about to bring you in here now. Councillor Keelan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll second that, but I wanted to make a wee inclusion if we accept it.
Go ahead.
There's a couple of grey areas. I do see that the PSNA have said that they won't penalise drivers if the vehicle has the try to book in the vehicle and if it's roadworthy. But without the actual MOT test, the staff checking the car, there's a lot of people that might not be that mechanically minded, to determine whether the vehicle is roadworthy or not. There's sort of a grey area, same as the insurance. And if Adam was happy enough, I'd like to include to write that letter to the PSNA as well, and to get an insurance expert to try and clear those issues up.
Okay. There's 4 letters to be sent here now, so I'm sure that can be included as well. I'm sure everyone's agreed there. This is a very serious issue, and there's no doubt that there needs to be further discussion with Minister DVLA and actions to be taken in regard to all of that. So the first proposal was by Councillor Eamon McClaughry, seconded by Councillor Anthony Feely, and it was agreed we sent a letter to the Minister seeking clarification on various issues and hopefully actions. And that was agreed. Proposed by Councillor Siobhán Currie and seconded by Councillor Robert Irvine that we have an urgent meeting with the Minister to outline our concerns to her, whether that be via WebEx or in person. And that is open. My interpretation of that was open to all councillors. So that was agreed. The third one was to put on the agenda for the NILGA Partnership Panel meeting as coming up, and to put on the agenda, and that was proposed by Councillor Chris McCaffrey and seconded by Councillor Sean Clark, and that was agreed. And the last one there was to write to the DVLA outlining their concerns and seeking clarifications on various issues, and that was proposed by Adam Gannon and seconded by Councillor Robert Irvine, and we were all agreed in that. So that was the 4 proposals that have come out of those pieces of correspondence, and we're all agreed. Okay, do you want to come in, Jimmy? And we have a proposer and seconder to note all. Councillor Anthony Feely, Councillor Robert Irvine. Okay. We'll reflect it all on. Yeah. No, that's okay. And I think we're on to the next item. Do you want to further add anything there, Chief Executive? No? Okay. Councillor Buchanan can join the merry band again.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson, for taking them items. Appreciate that. Okay, members, item 8.4, next on the agenda. To consider correspondence dated the 25th of October from the Department of Finance regarding proposals to amend the building regulations 1997. There's a copy attached. There is a report on this next month, members, which will include the response from the council, so just for noting. Councillor Irvine.
Thank you. I was going to say something, but there's a report coming. I'm happy enough just to note the correspondence, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Sean Clark, thank you. Okay, members. Item 8.5. Councillor McAleer.
Nice. Sorry, Chair, just before we move on from 8.4 there, what is the report that's coming back? Just because I know there's a couple of price increases mentioned in the report, detailed. So just to clarify what the report is that's coming back before we move on. Thank you.
Okay, I was chatting to John, just John Boyle. Can you clarify that, please?
Yes, Chair. The report will cover, there are a number of questions that are in the consultation document. and it is some of them relate to, do you agree to the fees that are proposed? And I'm sure that's what members would be interested in. So we will draft a response. You will note that the closing date for the consultation is the 19th of December, and we will have it we'll draft a response for the next Environmental Services Committee meeting here.
Thank you for that clarity, John. Okay, members. Item 8.5 is to note the correspondence dated the 26th of October from the Department of Agriculture and Rural Affairs regarding the consultation on additional protection for service animals in Northern Ireland. A summary of responses and departmental response. This is for noting as well, members. I have a proposer, please, Councillor Robert Irvine.
Happy to propose noting, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McClaughry.
I just want to record my dissent against this one and voted against it on the night, but just a very quick couple of points on it. There were a total of 47 responses noted to it, which is a very low uptake. It's noted that 3 councils responded to the consultation, but further on in 1.5, it actually states that 5 responses were received after the closing date and weren't considered, including 4 other councils and the Veterinary Association. I think that's very disappointing. We've talked previously in council about the very short turnaround given for some of these responses, and given the fact that there was such a poor turnaround from the borough and the district councils, I think it's disappointing that they weren't included. And again, like my reading or one of the objections that I raised on the night this was discussed is highlighted in page 9 that the idea that there should be no requirement to consider whether the conduct that caused suffering to a service animal was carried out in order to protect a person, property, or another animal. You know, the fact that this has been kind of okayed and forced through by the department is to me, it's not acceptable. It's not the way to do business. So I just want to put a record my dissent. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Just happy to second the note.
Okay, that's proposed and seconded to note, members. And we'll record that dissent. Everyone else agreed. Thank you. Is there any other correspondence? Just okay. And any urgent or relevant business? Just when we're there, members, there was an item came up last night and we didn't get it in any other business regarding a cross-party delegation to meet with the Health Minister. It was brought in under a motion and it was to be picked up in any other business. Just to have it was proposed by Councillor Robinson and seconded by Councillor Swift. Could we have that formally agreed tonight or proposed and seconded? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As you say, it was discussed last night, but we didn't get to that stage then to action it. So I'm happy to formally propose that happens.
Okay, and Councillor Mary Garrett. Oh, sorry.
My fault, Chair. Apologies. Second. Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Members all agreed. Okay. I have one item of any other business from Councillor Baird. Sorry, Councillor McAleer first there.
Sorry, just to clarify, did you say a delegation from council to meet with the minister, or would it be looking at the likes of an informal meeting or an online meeting so that all representatives would have the possibility to attend?
The proposal was a cross-party delegation would seek an urgent meeting with the minister. What we have done, because of the restrictions in COVID, we have advised that the council would generally be flexible as to how such a meeting would be convened, so whether that would be in person or virtually. But the proposal was around a cross-party delegation.
Could I just clarify then, in terms of the independent councillors and single party members, would they be included in that delegation then?
So that would be the normal approach, Chair. It would be fully represented.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baird.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Thanks for letting me in. I presume I'm being heard.
Yeah, you'd a query.
Thank you very much. It's just, it throws you this when you have to go this way. Look, yeah, thank you very much for letting me in. I tried getting this in last night, but we ran out of steam. What I want to raise is the issue of an organisation called Shared Environmental Services. This is a body, from what little I can find out about it, was established after the review of local government, and it's representative of the 11 council areas. But it in itself has become problematic in that either recommendations or directions from it are holding up NIEA decisions. So what I'm asking for is a report to be presented to Council giving details of how this organisation was established, who it's accountable to, its responsibilities, matters related to its decisions, whether those decisions are advice or directional or discretionary. And does the council, for instance, need to, is the council legally required to adhere to their direction? And as I say, the accountability aspect, who they're accountable to. So I really would appreciate if we can have a report on that brought back to council so that we're clear on this organisation. Thank you.
You'll propose that, Councillor Baird?
That's my proposal, yes.
Councillor Warrington?
Thank you, Chair. I didn't realise this was coming up tonight to discuss SES. I'm fairly, unfortunately, I'm fairly familiar with SES at the minute because I'm dealing with one planning application which SES and NIA is involved in, and just let's say it's not simple. I certainly will second Councillor Baird's proposal to what relevance SES has. It's my understanding that they're call them whatever you want, that were set up by all the councils in Northern Ireland, and basically they have been very problematic. I think in one mouthful they say, well, you know, all we can do is make suggestions, but unfortunately the suggestions that they make goes to NIEA, and they don't agree. The suggestions differ from NIEA, and then they're bounced from one to the other, thus making some planning issues very, very, very slow. And the one that I'm thinking of at the moment, I've been dealing with it now for over 3 years, and one keeps just bouncing off the other. And I think we need to know, I think that was a very relevant question from Councillor Baird, like, do councils, the likes of our planning committee, do they have to adhere to SES, and do NIEA have to adhere to SES? Because if that's the case, we're just at stalemates, and we're just holding the whole progression of businesses, businesses who want to move forward, progressing with building and stuff like that. So I think I certainly am very supportive of this proposal of Councillor Baird. Thank you.
Okay, that's proposed and seconded. Members, Councillor McClaughry.
Yeah, and I'll be very brief. Just the failures, I suppose, of both SES and the NIA again typify and exemplify and instruct why we need to move forward with an independent environmental protection agency, and that's something that's in the new decade, new agreement, or new NDNA agreement. That's something we should be moving on rapidly. I don't see why the minister's still not so happy enough to support that.
Okay. Thank you for that, members. That'll be looked at for us. But if members would allow, very quickly, I just wish to raise a small proposal. I had it in another business last night, and we didn't get TIP members. I know the West Road councillors are all very aware of it, I'm sure. And I am aware that we do have a meeting with Road Service or DEA and in December with the wider team. But I've been contacted by many constituents regarding the road surface on the Gilligully Road B50 Oma. This links Castledare and Drumquan to Oma, and it's well trafficked each day. There was an accident there, a bad RTC on Sunday past, and indeed, earlier in the month there was another RTC, and these have been reported to DFI, but no action has been taken. I think some small signs maybe have been erected, small skid signs, and I do believe, actually, I didn't realise this earlier, this item has actually maybe been raised even on the floor of the Assembly, but I've been contacted by a lot of constituents this week, especially about the condition of the road surface, especially from Gilligully Crossroads right into near enough Anoma, as Scott's Corners would be, as it would be known. And I felt, members, that due to the urgency of the matter and the, how it's been raised with me, that I propose that we write to DFI Roads immediately, stressing the urgency and that this road would be given priority. where the winter months are approaching, and the two accidents actually happened on the exact same location within a number of weeks, especially when the road is wet. There has been photographs taken, and people who live on the road have contacted DFA Roads as well, but I believe that the council should contact them on this specific issue as well, to try and press that some works are carried out immediately before the winter months approach, because there would be fear that life would be lost. So I propose that, members. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for using your position tonight to highlight this, and I'd be happy to support your proposal and second it personally. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, members, and for letting me raise that. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. And I know you didn't get raising it last night, but run out of time. But just with regard to Gilly Road, and you've highlighted Scott's Corner, and it's quite right, and probably goes on to what they known as Ford's Corner as well, and right over to Gilly Primary School. So that's a whole stretch of road there. There are a lot of corners on it. There's been numerous RTCs there, so you're quite right to highlight it and propose it accordingly. And happy to support you.
Thanks very much for that, members. All agreed. Thank you. Now, members, we need to move to confidential. If I could have a proposer. Councillor Mary Garrity and seconded Councillor Tommy McGuire. Just bear with us a second, please. Okay, members, that's us. So just if John would you like to sum up, please, first?
Mr. Chair, just to note the final committee, the meeting considered confidential minutes of the Environmental Services Committee held on the 6th of October and received an update on the matter arising. The committee also considered a report on options for the future operation of the council's dog kenneling facility and agreed with the recommendation in the report.
Thank you. Can we have a proposer for that? Councillor Thompson and Councillor Irvine. Thank you, members. That brings the meeting to a close, and it's nice to be finished up in good time tonight. We'll wish you a safe home. Thank you.